Hi, welcome back again for lesson number 8. In this lesson, we are going to learn about the open drives. There are two major open drives, open drive and open test drive. These are the two major open drives we use frequently use in our system. Once we understood the concept and the characteristics of this open drive and open test drive, this will help us to take a better trades in the example of entry and exit methods of market profile. So in the present condition, we need to understand what is open drive and what is open test drive. Let's understand the open drive. Open drive auction is caused by the other time frame participants. Other time frame participants in the big participants are the big player, smart player or the big player in the market, and open low and open high. I hope these words are very familiar with every one of you. However, I will explain you what is open low and open high in the next slide. Open low and open high is the basic characteristics of this open drive. Market opens and auctions aggressively in one direction. This is very important. I will repeat it. Market opens and auctions aggressively in one direction. And if market breaks the open price, that means there is an open low and market breaks the open price, then the direction established earlier is negated. So what is the direction and how it will be calculated, we will see in the coming session. So in this is an example of open low. We can see here, this is the candle, first candle, and the open of this day, that is this, the open price remains as the low of that particular day for entire day. When there is an open low, so market traded aggressively from one direction. So that is the characteristics of open drive. We can see here, market opens and auctions aggressively in one direction. Generally, conviction in this open drive condition is very high. So we can identify open drives when there is a open low or open high in the system. We will understand the open high also. So this is the open high. We can see here, this is the open of this day and high of this day is also same. Market traded in aggressively in one direction. Generally, these kind of drive results in trend days. This is the example of open low and this is the example of open high. Now, let's understand the open test drive. In these kind of drives, market lacks the initial confidence and trades in the reverse direction. Market opens and tests beyond a reference point like VIH or VIL or days high or days low or any other important reference for intraday trade and reverses in the opposite direction. We can see it in the chart. What happened here is, this is an open, market opened here, market opened here and it tried to break the VIL. It failed and it bounced back and it started to trade in the higher level. This is what open test drive, as the name implies. You can see here, market opened here and it tested VIL and it traded in the opposite direction. So this becomes the open test drive positive. This is the open test drive positive. And next one is, let's have a look at the open test drive. This is also an open test drive. We'll see some of the examples in the next slide. So this is also open test drive positive. What happened here is, market opened here and it lacked in the initial confidence and it traded lower levels and it tested previous day value area high and it traded in the opposite direction of the initial confidence. That means market opened here and it tested VIH and it traded in the opposite direction of the VIH. That becomes the open test drive positive. Similarly, if the open low is there, the sentiment is positive, we will look for the buying opportunities whenever there is an open low. Open low is generally a positive sign for the market, and open high, whenever there is an open high, we will look for the shorting opportunity in the market, and that is generally a negative sign for the market. And whenever there is an open test drive positive, well, how we can say it is a positive? Market opened and it tested the lower level and it started to trade in the higher level. That's why we call it as an open test drive positive. And similarly, this is also an example of open test drive positive. Let's look into the other examples in the real charts. can see here, this is the previous day value area, and market opened here and it started trading aggressively in a single direction. These kind of days, so it traded in the single direction. So this is the example of open drive positive with the open low, and we can see here, let's have a look into other examples. This is the example for open low as well. Market started to trade in the single direction. Yes, this is a classic example for open high. You can see here, this is the open high and market opened below the value and it started to trade in the original direction that is established. You can see here, entire throughout the day the trend was negative, and definitely open high indicates a negative open type. Now let's understand some of the, let's see the example of open test drives. Yes, we can see here, market opened here, lacks in the initial confidence, and it tested the previous day value area high and it started to trade at the higher levels. So this is the example for open test drive positive. This is the open test drive positive, and we can see some of the examples here. We can see here, market opened here and it started to trade in the above level and it lacks in the confidence of the initial confidence, and again it started to trade in the original direction that is established in the initial time. So that this example is the open test drive negative. We have to consider open test drive, and just a second. Yes, market opened here and it tested the previous day's important reference. Just a second. Sorry. Yes, market opened here and it started to trade in the higher levels and it failed to trade and it lacks in the confidence of the initial direction, and it traded in the lower levels. So what level it is tested? It is tested the previous day POC. So it tested the POC and it traded in the lower levels. So this is the example of OTD negative, and this is the example of open drive negative, and this is a very classic example for OTD positive. Let's mark it here. Here it traded and it tested the previous day low and market traded in the higher levels. Similarly, if you look into the chart, you will get many examples like that. So the concept here is we need to understand what is the open drive and what is the open test drive, and what is negative and what is positive for the market is the basic concept we need to understand. That once we understood that, there is a separate mechanism to enter and exit. By using these mechanisms, we will understand that in the entry exit methods of the using the market profile, that will be covered in the upcoming session. This is it for this lesson. We understood what is open drives and how it works, and open low, open high, and open test drives. What is positive for the market, what is negative for the market, we understood in this lesson. And the next lesson, we are going to learn how to identify the day structures before it occurs. So that is the concept we are going to learn in the next lesson. Thank you so much.